Okay, in this video we are going to go over the AWS CLI and how to authenticate with the CLI using IAM roles and custom policies. So I'm going to just do a quick overview of what we're going to cover in the video. So we're going to show that we can't run S3 commands from the EC2 CLI against an S3 bucket. We're then going to create an IAM role with a custom IAM policies for the EC2, and that custom policy is going to give us the ability to list S3 buckets and read S3 objects, as well as creating and deleting S3 buckets that are uniquely named. And then we're going to test the IAM policy from the EC2 CLI as well as from the IAM Policy Simulator. Okay, so what I've done is I've created a few things before this video so it would just speed things up. So I have an EC2 instance already running here, and I also have an S3 bucket right here. And this S3 bucket actually is just a simple website, and it's just a static website that I'll show you right here if we go to the endpoint. So it just shows a single page website, and what we want to do is we want to be able to read the objects in this bucket from the CLI, from an EC2 CLI, and then also just list other buckets in our S3. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to SSH into my EC2 instance right here. This is the public IP address. I already have it saved from before, so let's just SSH. Okay, so now I am in the EC2 instance, and I'm going to try to run a simple command from S3. And by the way, the S3 commands are from this reference right here. So this is the CLI command reference, and it's broken down by all the services. And if we look at S3, which is right here, so we have a bunch of commands that we can run for S3, and the one that I'm going to run is ls. So just to list all the buckets, just like this. I'm going to, in fact, copy that and try to run that in my EC2 instance, and it's not going to allow me to do that because I haven't configured credentials. Now, normally, if this was my machine, I would just do AWS configure, and it would ask me for the access key, the secret key, and so forth. Of course, this is an EC2 instance, so in no way should you be putting those credentials on the EC2 machine. Very, very, very bad security practice. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to create an IAM role and then give that role specific policies to allow us to do this command. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my IAM dashboard, and we're going to create a role for that EC2 instance. Okay, and the role we'll just call, so here we're going to say it's for an AWS service, it's for EC2. We're going to give it permissions. So again, so this is where you can choose a canned policy that AWS has created for you. I did another video where we did that, so you can have read-only access or full access to S3. In fact, here, if you do it like this, if you search for that, you have full access and read-only. I'm not going to do that in this video because I'm going to create a custom policy that's going to be specific to unique names of my buckets. So I'm going to leave this out for now. So it's going to just be an empty role with no policies, with no tags, and we're going to call this and then we'll say custom policy, just like that. Okay. So now we're going to create this role. there it is. So this role right now is doesn't have any policies associated with it. So I'm going to create those policies now. So um, so I'm not going to choose the canned ones. I'm going to create my own policy. And right now it's going to open up the visual editor for policies. And what we'll do is we'll use this. It's a convenient way to create custom policies. So for the service, we'll select S3. For the actions, okay, so the actions um, we're going to just choose a few. So we want to list all the buckets. We want to be able to run that ls command, and that's this one right here, list all my buckets. Now we also wanted to list the specific objects of my bucket, and that's this bucket right here, test website Misha. And I also wanted to kind of give it a little bit more generic, so any bucket that has my name on it will be able to list the objects in that bucket, but no other bucket. So so let's say list bucket, and now see how it says you have to have the ARN for that list bucket action. So we are going to add the ARN. Now it already pre-populates that with S3, and I can actually use wildcards here. So I'm going to say anything with my name in it, and it could be anywhere in the bucket name. That should be okay to list the objects in that bucket. So now we have list all the buckets, list the objects in any bucket that has my name on it, and the other thing we're going to do is we also want to be able to create buckets and delete buckets. But again, because this is a custom policy, I'm going to do another statement here. And again, we're going to say S3, and then I will say, so for writing, we'll say you can create a bucket, but again, create and delete a bucket. But you see here, it wants you to specify the ARN. So I also want to do the same thing here. So I want to say we can only create a bucket if it has my name in it, and we can only delete a bucket if it has my name in it. So we can't just delete any bucket, because again, this is why it's custom. It's good to use a custom policy, because the canned AWS policies would only allow you, if you chose the right access policy, it would allow you to delete any bucket, and we want to only allow you to delete only very specific buckets. So let's do that. So we can create or delete a bucket that has somewhere Misha in the name of it, and we can list all the buckets, and we could list all the objects in a bucket where my name is in that bucket. And let's just review it. And we'll call this policy like this. And now, so we have this policy. So let's attach this policy to the role that we just created. Let's just review it here. So here's the JSON for that. So we can allow the list bucket of any ARN with the word Misha in it. We could list all the buckets, and we could create or delete a bucket as long as it has the Misha in the bucket name. Okay, great. So now let's attach this policy to the role that we created. And that role was this one right here. So we're going to attach it. Great. So now, if we look at the role, we search for it here. So here's the role. Now we should see that policy right there. Great. So now that policy is attached to the role. So now we need to have our EC2 instance to use that role, because right now the EC2 instance doesn't have anything. If we go back to our EC2 instance here and we try to run the ls command, it still doesn't allow us to do that. So now we're going to go to the EC2 instance. We're going to attach the IAM role that we just created. So that is here. Instance settings, attach, replace IAM role, and with the drop down, so there's the policy, custom policy role. Okay, so there it is. We apply that. And now what we should see is we should see the EC2 instance showing that it is using that that custom, well, the role which is using the policy, the custom policy. So I don't know what's going on with AWS. It's kind of spinning a lot. Let me pause the video and come back when it's all, or maybe let's go back to here. Okay, so, no, it's still not showing. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm going to refresh, attach, and this is the role. There. Okay, now it worked. Okay, great. So now, if we look at this instance, so right there, that IAM role, so now it's attached to that instance. So now, if we go back to our instance here, and we do a list, great. Now we see all the S3 buckets, and in fact, here's the bucket that that we had the website on. Great. So now what we can do is we listed all the buckets, and now we can try listing the objects from our bucket. So let's say AWS S3 ls, and then we can actually specify specific bucket, so that's S3:// and then test website Misha, and there it is. So it actually gave us these two files, which are listed right here. And by the way, just to show you for the command line, you can, here's the command that I just used. So you can do AWS S3 ls and then the specific bucket name. Okay. Now, according to our policy, we should only be allowed to list the bucket objects of any bucket that has my name in it. So let's just find a bucket that doesn't have my name in it, and we should not be able to list that. So let's do, I think there was one called server meta, so let's do that one. So if we do, actually here, let's do this one. So if we do AWS S3 ls, and then let's just try this one of these other buckets. There it is. So access denied. I can't list that. I can't list the objects in that bucket because it doesn't have Misha in the name. Okay, so let's try now create a bucket. What we can do is we're going to create a bucket, and I'll show you the command I'm using. So the command is mb, or make bucket, which is right here. So we can say AWS S3 mb and then the bucket name. So I can say my bucket, now if I call it, I'm going to put test on it, and I'm going to put my name on it. So it should allow me to do that. Great. But if I just do just like that, it should not allow me to do that because I'll put some random characters there so it's unique, because my name isn't there. There it is. So access denied. So I can't just create any bucket I want. It has to have It has to be tagged with my name in there. Okay, and now I am going to delete that bucket. So for instance, I will delete that bucket right there. And for the delete bucket, I'm going to use the RB command, which is the remove bucket. And that's, I'll show you where that is. And that's right here. So we can say, and then AWS RB, now it removes that bucket. And the bucket has to be empty, otherwise you have to use this force command, but in our case it is empty. So we'll just delete the bucket like that, and the bucket name was like this. There, and it just removed that bucket. Great. So now if we try to delete any other bucket, it's not going to work because because our policy says that we can't just delete any bucket. So what I'll do is I don't want to just delete one of the existing buckets. I'll create a bucket to say, let's just say test try to delete me from CLI. Okay, I'm just going to copy that and we'll create it. Okay, so I'll say there. Okay, so there's my bucket. Okay, I just created it. It's empty. Nobody else is using it. So now let's try to delete that bucket from the CLI. And it shouldn't allow us to do that because it doesn't have my name in it. There. So access denied. Okay, great. So now we know the bucket policy is working properly. And what I'll do is I will delete the bucket from here. Okay. Test try to delete me from CLI. Okay, great. So it's gone. Okay, so now we've basically verified that the custom bucket policy is working, and we did it from the CLI. So there's another way to do it, and that is to use the IAM Policy Simulator, because a lot of the time you're going to have a custom policy and you're going to need to test it out to see if it works in different circumstances. So this is what I want to show you, another way to do the testing of the custom policy, and that is this IAM Policy Simulator right here. Now you can, if you just search for IAM Policy Simulator right there, so you should find it, and you know, that's how you would find it normally, and there's a link that's going to be on this page right there. So that's how I got it. So it's not hard to find. So if we go here and we look at the roles, and because we created our role, which was this one right here, and that role had, okay, I don't know, it looks like it didn't load the policies, even though there are policies there. It's not loading them. So I think it just takes a while for this simulator, unfortunately, to pick up the policies that we added. Because if we look at our role, it does have policies there. So like, here, let me just confirm here. So we have our role, and let me search for my name. Okay, so test custom policy. Oh yeah, so that's the role that we should be looking for, test custom policy. So let's go back. Let's do test. Yeah, it didn't pick it up. Let me pause the video, and it's going to pick it up in just a second, or let me try refreshing this. There it is. Okay, so test custom policy. Okay, and that custom policy, this role has this policy, and this is so this is the policy that it's using right now. And what we can do here is we can actually show how we can simulate tests, and we'll select the S3 because that's the only service that we're testing. And we could just say we can select different actions, but I'm just going to do select all. So it'll select everything, and we could say run simulation. So now it's going to show you how it denies almost everything except for list all my buckets. So list all my buckets, that is good, it allows that. But if you look here, like list bucket, it denied it because remember we only said to allow for any bucket that had my name in it. So it's trying to do for any bucket, and it's not going to allow you to list the objects of just any bucket. So if we can actually change this to be like this, and if we run the simulation again, oh, sorry, I have to list the ARN of the bucket, so that's going to be this one right here. So if I do that, and then if I run the simulation again, okay, and there it is. So now it allows the list bucket. And if I actually show the statement, so there, it just showed you which statement in the policy allowed it to pass through. So I could even say 1, 2, 3, just like that. So there, that would pass if it was named something with my name in it. Now, the same thing has to be done. Well, actually, it did it automatically for delete bucket. So delete bucket, see, it automatically filled in the ARN, and now it's allowing that, and as well as the create bucket. So it's allowing anything with my name in it. And if we look at the statement, so again, this is actually very handy. It shows you where the match is in your policy. So that's it. So that's how you would use the policy simulator to test your custom IAM policy and know that it's working properly.